This week on Jon Thelen's Destination Fish, we start on a midsummer walleye bite. About the time the water warms up, so does the spinner bite, and today is no exception. Jon Thelen's Destination Fish is brought to you by Lindy Fishing Tackle and Alumacraft Boats. There he is, right on that corner. This fish bit it right when I came around the edge of this structure. He bit it right on the corner. We got here, 10 feet of water. Not super deep. Good keeper fish to start if we can get him in the net. Look at that. Man, this time of the year, spinner fishing is tough to beat. Midsummer, and one of those times of the year where a lot of times fishing starts slowing down a little bit. People start complaining a little bit that fish are maybe on the in-between and they're a little bit harder to catch. But I'll tell you what, spinners at this time of the year, fish like that one right there, it's a great 15, 16-inch walleye to start. Spinners are the best way to get them because they're switching over to eating crawlers. They're still on the back end of eating leeches, but here's what spinners do. They allow you to cover water and put something down there that's gonna grab their attention with that spinner blade. Man, I'll tell you, it's one of my favorite ways to catch fish, and it is doggone effective, especially in those July and August months. There he is. That feels like a pretty good fish. You know what? I missed this fish, and he came back and bit again for me. You know, you hear people talk about walleyes following crankbaits, and they do, but they'll follow a spinner too, another good fish. Look at that. Did something a little different here. I crept up a little bit in depth. Came up just a little bit, and this guy was sitting up on this top ledge. Another great fish. Man, spinner fishing is so much fun. Let's talk location real quick. Here's what I'm fishing today. All I've done to sit here and catch these fish is pick a spot where the wind is coming in against the ledge. Now I'm fishing all rocks here. And these fish, what they're doing is they're moving up and down. I'm getting most of them in 12 to 13 feet of water along this rock ledge. But I'll tell you what, that fish right there came right in 10 feet of water. And I got a couple of them earlier right out off the edge in 15 feet of water. So you don't want to be afraid to do this with your Minn Kota. Work your way back and forth along these ledges because these fish, they're all active with this wind coming in. But that's the biggest key today. When you get into this time of the year, look for fishing the wind. It's going to put you in a position where all the bait is being pushed up on a spot. That's going to congregate the walleyes and you're fishing on top of active fish. One of the other great things about fishing spinners on a day like today, when you look at this wind, it's making boat control a little bit hard. My speed is bouncing back and forth between where I want to be, between 1.1 and 1.3, but every now and then I'm bouncing up to 1.5, I'm dropping down to 0.9. Here's the thing, as long as you're making those constant line adjustments, keeping that bottom bouncer down in the right spot, you can be going any of those speeds and these fish will bite. There he is. Got him. You know, sometimes that initial reaction that you have is always to pull back on a fish right away when he bites. But I'll tell you, sometimes, especially spinner fishing, you'll just pull your bait away from a fish doing that. So one of the things you'll notice that I do, I almost play a tug of war with them. I just hold some pressure on that tip. I hold pressure on, nice walleye. Good fish. Stay on there, buddy. Really nice fish. Look at that. But all I do is try to hold pressure on him. Make him feel me so that he feels like that bait is trying to get away. Because if you don't, what often happens is he might just feel like something's not right and let go. But if you keep him wound up, that fish right there, he's gonna keep eating his way up it. And that's what that guy right there did. Great fish. Jon Thelen's Destination Fish is brought to you by these fine sponsors. There he is. Feels like a pretty good fish. Yeah, this one might be decent. Yep, another good eye. Come here, buddy. Look at that. Another great fish. Just cookie cutters. I mean, just beautiful walleye stacked up on this thing this morning. Look at that. I'm gonna show you what we're using because it's simple. Been around forever. Caught walleyes like that one right there since the day it was brought out. Little Joe spinners. Now today, I'm fishing the walleye spinner with crawlers. Okay, now the walleye spinner was actually designed in its inception for fishing minnows, and then there's a crawler harness as well, but here's the deal. There's a lot of small fish in here. A lot of anywhere from 12 to 14 inch fish. And a lot of what happens sometimes when you're fishing a crawler harness is you're fishing that whole crawler, and ultimately sometimes you end up in a scenario where those little fish come up and just constantly bite the back end of that crawler off. So what I did is I switched over to the walleye spinner because the walleye spinner is a single hook, it's a little bit longer, and all I'm doing is threading that crawler on and then I'm nipping it off. So ultimately what happens is I'm making it so that they get over the top of the hook, okay? Whole variety of colors. I'll tell you what, it's just hard to beat a walleye spinner. You know, I'm fishing pretty rocky stuff today, and this Little Joe walleye spinner or the crawler harness, if we were in a scenario with less small fish, either one of them, man, they're so tough because ultimately I'm snagging up a lot, okay? You're not seeing me constantly turning around because I'm snagged up, but I have to, okay? I'm trying to hold that bouncer just above bottom, but every now and then you do get snagged up and you're banging along in the rocks, and these things are tough. They're tied out a tough line, so you're not gonna have to deal with the issues. Awesome, awesome spinner rigs. Now there's two times I fish super lines. One is when I'm jigging. Second is when I'm pulling spinners in rocky areas. Now if I'm pulling, ooh, there's a fish right there. It's a good fish too. If I'm pulling spinners in areas that aren't snaggy, I'm not so worried about it. At that point, I have no problem pulling monofilament. But when you're fishing what we're fishing here, stuff where you're going to get snagged, super line is awesome because what it allows me to do is turn around every time I get snagged up and snap it out of there so that I don't lose. Ooh yeah, nice walleye. Look at that one, big fish. But it allows me to get out of snags. I don't end up in a scenario where I'm constantly snagging up and breaking line because that super line, I can give it a snap and it's so strong. Look at that fish, big fish. But that super line allows me to get out of snags by simply just turning around, going back, getting on the back side of the snag, giving it a snap, and I can get out, get right back in the water and chase those. What an awesome fish that is. What an awesome morning, man. That is good stuff. There's one. That feels like a pretty good fish. All I did there is I just set that sinker down, that bottom bouncer on the bottom, and I was doing two things there. One, I'm making sure my depth is right, but the second thing that I'm doing when I do that is I'm stopping my bait. It gives them that trigger point. Oh yeah, nice walleye. Look at that, I just set that thing down and this guy grabbed it. Man, this has been a fast and fun morning of fishing. And I can't think of anything a whole lot more fun than pulling spinners and catching fish like that that are just non-stop on the chew. What a great morning of fishing. Get out and do this. When you get into that July, even into that August time frame, when everybody starts thinking, boy, bites are slowing down a little bit, live bait's not quite as effective anymore, find those wind-blown areas, find those spots where those fish are gonna congregate, pull spinners along the edge of it. This would be too hard to pull a crankbait on. I'm gonna tell you right now, but as far as fishing it the way I was able to fish it this morning, a spinner was the easiest way. I didn't have to worry about my speed, and I didn't have to worry about the scenario I was putting myself in as far as working the contours, because I could precisely work around it. You could never do that with a crankbait with all that line out. That's fun fishing right there. Jon Thelen's Destination Fish has been brought to you by these great sponsors.